Are you planning to renovate your kitchen and looking for decoration tips and practical advice on how to carry out the renovation? Even so, pay attention because you're watching the right video. Grab a pen and paper because I'm gonna tell you everything right here in this video. 15 items, 15 tips, ideas that you can implement in your kitchen renovation. So you can have a functional kitchen, a beautiful kitchen, up to date and modern. Hey guys, how are you doing? Alright, I'm Ed Parquitedo, and in this video, this content is to help you not make mistakes when decorating your kitchen. Don't do any kind of service work or execution that you'll regret later, okay? That's important too. You'll agree with me on some of these. Write this down, grab paper and a pen, rewind the video. This will help you. Renovating, building, or just want a new kitchen? For example, give your kitchen an upgrade. These 15 simple ideas that I'm going to share with you right now will help you a lot. First tip, guys, have a backsplash made of the same material as your countertop. Imagine you have your countertop in a white granite, that white stella, a white quartz, and so on. Instead of having a small backsplash and a wall covering, you extend the same backsplash made from your sink's material. Look how interesting this is. And actually, if you do the math, it's even affordable, even a good value for money. Why did we use the full backsplash on that countertop over there? Imagine that on your sink countertop, you'll have a white stellar granite, a white stellar quartz, something like that, okay? We're not going to talk about the material itself here, but let's talk about the style, the design you'll have for your backsplash. So you bring in your countertop, your beautiful stone, nice, and then instead of just that little 10 or 12 centimeter backsplash, you take the whole backsplash up with the same material as the stone. So you'll have your stone and the backsplash going up there. Aesthetically, it looks better. You won't have that raised detail there, that little notch from the backsplash, okay? Aesthetically, it looks better and gives your kitchen countertop more presence. Another thing that's interesting for you to consider and figure out if it's really gonna look good or not. It depends on the material. Some countertop materials are so expensive per square meter that adding a backsplash may not be worth it. Now, if you're going to use an average price, a base price here for more common materials like granite or quartz, for example, compared to buying a porcelain tile, the mortar, the grout, and the labor for the porcelain tile installer. And then when you bring this into the marble shop's budget, you'll see that it ends up being about the same. Let's put it this way, the same budget you would spend to install this, you could use to make your sink wall in porcelain tile. It's the same amount you would invest to have it. Use a full backsplash on your countertop and sink instead of a small one. Between the countertop and the overhead cabinet there, usually where we always have the overhead cabinet. So the first option here, the first tip I want to tell you is, instead of using a short backsplash, let's try to use a full backsplash there, which will look good aesthetically. Suddenly, it might cost as much as installing porcelain tile. Second item here, second tip I want to bring to you is to leave the correct space in your baseboard. Imagine that when you're washing dishes or preparing some food, the tip of your foot keeps hitting that baseboard. So that can't happen. You need to leave enough space for everyday use. This tip here is a practical one, okay? This is a useful tip. Feel this difference in your daily life, using your kitchen, cooking, washing dishes, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're there, leaning against the counter, your counter by your sink. Some call it a countertop base, but I prefer to call it a baseboard. It's not deep, it doesn't have an ideal depth between the end of your furniture and its beginning. Okay, this baseboard is usually made of masonry, and then on its front, some people, some decorators, like to use the same material as the stone. I prefer using the same material as the floor. You're using porcelain tile, so you make the baseboard from the same material as the floor? I think it looks better aesthetically, but it needs to have some depth. You can't finish the baseboard flush, level with your furniture. Because when you lean in to wash your dishes or prepare some food, the tip of your shoe, your foot, will keep hitting it, and that's going to bother you. It can even cause back pain, so this is a tip, even ergonomically speaking, for your back health. So you need to leave a certain depth in your baseboard there. Like, what would be the ideal measurement for that? What I use in my projects is 10 centimeters of depth. When the furniture ends here, I set the baseboard back by 10 centimeters. No problem, even if your foot is about size 48 or 50. Even so, you won't hit the tip of your baseboard. So this is a practical tip. When you're working on the project, when you're making the baseboard for your countertop, pay attention to this because it will work really well for your daily routine. In your kitchen, a recessed handle in the door itself, in your own cabinetry, whether it's on the cabinet doors, the drawers, or your overhead unit in your cupboard, right? Using a recessed handle, have you seen that recessed handle? Kind of square at a 45-degree angle like this? On the door itself, when you go to pull it, we don't have a handle. For example, in aluminum, a solid one that goes all the way across the door, which aesthetically I don't like. It's not like I'm going to tell you to rip it out, remove it. No, if you have it, there's no problem, okay? Now, in a new project where you hired me to execute, to do your project, I would recommend you use a handle, a groove in the door itself, in the drawer itself, okay? Aesthetically, for woodworking, imagine you chose a beautiful piece, a nice, cool color, and then you go and fill it with handles. So, whether you like it or not, there will be a break in the aesthetics of your woodworking decor. So the recessed handle directly on the door or drawer is a tip I bring to you. Very functional and also aesthetically pleasing. There are also other models of recessed handles. Suddenly you set the cabinet or the overhead cupboard in your kitchen back a little and let the door stick out a bit, then you pull it from there. It's another style of handle too, but this recessed handle is really cool. If you do the math, then what would you invest in a handle model that you liked? With this model here, it might end up costing about the same as well. So that's another tip I want to share with you here. Use the recessed handle in the carpentry itself, in the door you have on your drawer. There, instead of mainly putting a full-length handle across the whole thing, LED in the cabinet, this one's really cheap, guys. It won't increase your cost, your budget there in your carpentry shop. In fact, if you already have your carpentry work done and want to put this LED in your cabinet, right below your overhead cabinet, it looks really nice and it's another lighting option. If you're renovating and you've hired carpenters to make custom furniture for your kitchen, don't forget to tell the people who are doing the carpentry for you that you want a little LED under your overhead cabinet to light up exactly that wall above your sink countertop. Imagine our first item was the full backsplash. The countertop material goes up, but there's no backsplash. And then you have an LED in that cabinet above, which will bathe your cabinet in light. It looks really nice, okay? Just a little LED there. It won't cost you anything at all to include it in the project. If you talk to the cabinet maker, maybe they'll even give it to you as a bonus, okay? Doing the entire project with them at the cabinet makers is cool and looks great. It's another lighting option for you if you really like to stay in the kitchen, make different kinds of food, and enjoy cooking. This type of lighting is used often in daily life. So really consider having this little LED. It's like, I already have my cabinet here. How do I get this little LED here? I'll leave the link for this LED strip in the description for you. You can plug it directly into the outlet, okay? It doesn't need a power supply. You just plug it straight into the outlet. If there's an outlet nearby or inside a hidden cabinet, you can run the LED strip there. It attaches with double-sided tape. Just stick and plug in. And you have the option to have lighting on that wall, right? On that one, under your cabinet, lighting your countertop. Having a wet area that's a bit larger than the traditional, than the conventional, that really makes our daily use much easier. Using the countertop, washing dishes, washing food, putting the dish rack there is also very interesting. Obviously, this tip I'm giving you about having a wet area on your sink countertop is for those who have a large sink, a large countertop. If you have a small space on your sink, you'll have to work with the wet area within the limits, right inside the bowl, maybe just a little bigger, and that's it, right? Now, if you have the option and a large countertop, why not make the wet area bigger? You already know what the wet area is, but I'll just repeat it here and show you. The wet area is that slightly lower area that surrounds our sink. Exactly for when I'm washing dishes, washing food, or doing anything on top of my sink, on my countertop. This wet area won't, for example, reach my cooktop or get to any container or anything that's in the dry area. So having a slightly larger wet area, okay? You could also place the dish rack on the right side or on the left if you're left-handed, if it's not built into the countertop. Right there in your sink, the built-in dish rack or a traditional one like I have at home. It's really nice to have a wet area, a slightly larger countertop. Again, I repeat, this works for you if you have a large countertop and also for you if you have a small countertop, a short space there on your sink's countertop. You can't do that. But if you plan to renovate, build, or upgrade your kitchen, you can change the countertop. Think about this, okay? Having a slightly larger area, this wet area of your sink's countertop. Now, I want to talk to you about the layout of your kitchen. You've probably heard about the triangle layout, right? Using the cooktop, sink, and refrigerator is very functional in our kitchen. I want to bring this item up to explain it better. You may have already heard some professionals say that the perfect or ideal kitchen layout is to have a triangle shape. What is a triangle layout in a kitchen? It's having the cooktop here, the refrigerator here, and your sink on this side here. In other words, cooktop, sink, refrigerator, they have to be in a triangle. But that's an idea that in our day-to-day design work, especially for those who live in apartments, doesn't work. There's no space, it doesn't fit or work. The layout is tight, the space for our kitchen is limited, so you won't be able to implement that. So what do I say? That would be an interesting idea to use in a large kitchen. Now imagine me here and you. We have an apartment where our sink wall will have the cooktop, the sink, a little space, a dry area, and the fridge, so everything is on the same countertop. The ideal would be to have this layout in a triangle, okay? To make your daily life easier, right? Your everyday use in your kitchen. But if you don't have it, don't worry about what you hear out there. Oh, my kitchen didn't turn out well. My kitchen didn't look good because it lacked the triangle layout I saw online. Don't worry about that. Focus on using and making the most out of the usable space you have in your kitchen. And set aside that idea of a triangle layout in your kitchen for a bit. All right, use what you have. Try to improve and perfect the spaces you have there. If the cooktop is here, you have your wet area right there, right next to your sink. And the refrigerator is in the corner and it's serving you, it's working well, you can use your kitchen perfectly. Okay, there's no problem at all. This idea of using a triangle here in the layout is only for when we have a lot of space and when we include this idea in the project for the client. The client must accept it too. If not, like if you hire me and say, I didn't like this triangle idea, why does the sink have to be here? The cooktop has to be on this side and the refrigerator here. I'm going to keep spinning around here like a fool, like an idiot here. No, okay, then do what works for you. Putting aside this idea here that many times when we're designing a kitchen, it doesn't work. Tile only on the sink wall, which is really cool. What I've been using a lot in my projects is putting porcelain tile only on the wall where the sink goes, or maybe the cooktop. Notice that this is also a way to save money in your kitchen, all right? In my current projects, I really make a point of giving tips and ideas to my clients. To put porcelain tile or a stone and everything else only on the wall behind the sink. All right, where are the sink, cooktop, and stove, for example? On that wall, we use the covering, whether it's porcelain tile, granite itself, or whatever. Now, covering the whole kitchen with porcelain tile or with stone. I don't really like that. It's not my thing, okay? The idea is to make the space as clean as possible, as light as possible. Edipo, are you saying that? And what about using this paint on the other walls? Okay, Cozinha, pay attention. Think with me here. Look, Cozinha, usually we have a lot of cabinets, we have a lot of cupboards, right? So that kind of eliminates the need to have tiles on those other walls. Another thing, if I just told you that we should only have tiles on the sink wall, why put them on the other walls? Next is the idea of using paint, but concerns arise about stains and mess. You can use a water-based epoxy paint, which is very good, easy to clean, and very resistant. And for the kitchen wall, there are only a few walls that will actually show because of the cabinets. The small can of epoxy paint is inexpensive, and one can is enough to cover the other walls. So it's an idea, okay? It's a suggestion that I want to show and bring to you here. have the covering, whether it's porcelain tile or some ceramic you like, only on the sink wall, leaving the other walls free. Cabinetry without a mirror or glass. You know that overhead cabinet that stays there above the countertop of our sink? Imagine you have a mirror, right, that has the glass and the mirror in this cabinetry. Here's another perspective. Take a look. I brought this tip, this idea, this item that I asked you about in previous videos. All right, guys, what do you think? Would you use the mirror on that overhead door on your cabinet, in your kitchen? I got 90% of messages here, responses to this video saying no. Look, Ed, it's hard to clean and gets dirty quickly. Frying already splatters and makes a mess. We have to keep cleaning it a little bit constantly because it shows the dirt more, right? So 90% of the people who answered me said they wouldn't use mirrors on these overhead cabinet doors. On our cabinet here, 10% said, no, I would use it, I like it, I enjoy it. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. Would you use mirrors on your overhead cabinet doors in your kitchen? I wouldn't, okay? I'll be honest with you here. I'll say it again. If you hired me to design a project for you today, for your kitchen cabinetry, I wouldn't use doors with glass or mirrors. On the upper part, there. On the lower part, we usually don't use them anyway, and on the upper part, I wouldn't put them either. Exactly because it's not an item, not a type of situation that's very functional for everyday use, okay? Imagine if I install it and after a year you complain because it gets dirty easily. Ed could have just added a door or cabinetry here. So, I'd like to hear your opinion about this item. Would you use mirrors on your cabinet doors in your kitchen or not? Undermount sink. This, guys, is a must-have if you want to have a countertop, right? Your sink countertop needs to be functional. It has to be an undermount sink. This was also another question I asked you in previous videos. Which sinks would you use in your kitchen? Undermount, below the countertop, under our stone, our material leveled with the stone. Or a drop-in sink? The undermount sink got a 95% positive response that yes, you would use it. Yes, the drop-in sink was pretty much the one that came in last place there. The flush mount sink was nice, but some models are a bit pricey. Sinks flush with the countertop are usually the most expensive. All right, among these three here, undermount, drop-in, and flush mount, okay? But think with me, okay? We're just exchanging opinions here. I want to know from you, I'm telling you here and you answer me here in the comments. Consider having a drop-in sink in your daily life. It will create that slight bump there, that little raised edge we have on our sink. And then pulling water into the sink is a hassle, right? It makes cleaning harder, you know? A little bit of dirt can build up around the edge of your sink there. With an undermount or flush mount sink, we don't have that problem. So, what we're talking about here, I want you to understand, okay? I'm not telling you to never use an undermount sink. Although, if you hired me to do the project, I wouldn't use it. I would use the flush mount or the undermount sink. Now, it's not that you can't use it. If you like this model, there's no problem at all. But for everyday use, you'll agree with me. You'll have a little more work to clean and maintain your countertop. The traditional water filter that we have should be on the wall and not on top of your sink countertop. There's a water filter in your kitchen, which is natural. It's normal for us to have one. I have a water filter at home. Other people sometimes have the filter right on the faucet. A lot of people like it and a lot of people don't. I'd like to know your opinion. Are you one of those who prefers the traditional filter, the one we've always had, or a filter on the faucet? I'd like to hear your opinion. But what's the tip I want to share with you here? Have a water filter in your kitchen, a natural one. But in my opinion and in my projects, I always try to put it on the wall, never on the countertop. Only if there's no other way, only if there's no option. If you're going to lose a lot of space and your overhead cabinet space is already limited, then okay, you can leave it on your countertop. But other than that, always on the wall, keep your countertop free. It's easier for you to clean and do anything on your countertop. The filter on the wall is already well fixed, really nice. There are situations where you can even make a little wooden box to hide that hose and the outlet behind it, okay? I've already done that. There was a project where I did it like that. So my tip and my idea for you is, if you're going to install the filter, plan it out, okay? Are you remodeling your kitchen? So think carefully. Install the filter, the water outlet, and the power outlet there to plug it into the wall, never on the countertop. Now, if you already had your kitchen, if you bought an apartment or a house and you're not going to remodel it, then there's no way you have to leave it on the countertop. But even so, you can still put some wall plugs there and mount the filter on the wall to keep your countertop free. Here's a really cool and very practical tip for your daily routine in the kitchen. A trash can on your sink countertop. Would you use it in your kitchen? Personally, I don't like it and I wouldn't recommend it in a new project. Many clients ask for it during projects saying, don't forget my little trash can, okay? Trash can. Does it have to be in the wet area or does it have to be in the dry area of the countertop? Listen to this tip, trash can. Decide whether you want a trash can on your countertop by the sink. All right, okay, no problem. In my opinion, it should stay in the dry area, never in the wet area. That's my opinion. If there's no way, if you really have to, and you have to put it in the wet area, all right? Now, if the project fits, and as always, there's space in the dry area, the little trash can goes there. But I'm one of those people who doesn't like having the trash can on the countertop, okay? That's my personal opinion. If you hired me to do a project, I would tell you that. Look, let's not put the trash can here on our countertop, okay? First, we can't have a big trash can on our countertop. It would have to be a tiny one there, okay? Second, I don't know. Having a small trash can on the counter doesn't seem very hygienic. I'm not criticizing you if you have one, for God's sake, okay? If you have a little trash can on your sink countertop, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that in a project I would do, I wouldn't put one. I prefer to put a trash can, for example, in two situations. The traditional floor one, where you step on it and it opens. Or a trash can built into the cabinet or cupboard, which is also common. Now, on top of my countertop, I don't like it, I don't enjoy it, but I'd like to hear your opinion. Would you put a little trash can on your sink countertop, on your new stone that you're going to install there? Answer me here. It's like, yes, I would use the trash can on my countertop, or it's like, no, I agree with you, it has to be that traditional trash can, the floor or cabinet one. 220 volt outlet. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes to have a 220 volt outlet in your kitchen. For us who live here in São Paulo, I live here in São Paulo. Here we have both 127 and 220 volts, okay? But there are places here in Brazil where there's only 220 and then all the equipment is 220. In those regions, it's more common in the northeast and also in the south. Now, here in the southeast, it's very common for us to use 127 volts for all the outlets in our house. When we're working in the kitchen, have you thought about how important it is to have at least one 220 volt outlet on your kitchen counter, even if all your kitchen appliances are 127 volts? But at least leave one outlet, you know? That outlet, even if it's over there next to the fridge, in a little hidden corner and all that, but at least leave a 225 outlet in your kitchen with a general purpose socket and all that, so you have that option. If you need to use an appliance or equipment that only works on 225, like a powerful device, you'll already have it ready, okay? Sometimes you might think, I didn't put any 225 outlets here. Then, making the change or the modification will cause a bit of inconvenience. Sometimes you'll need to break things. If you're already renovating and handling electrical work, just ask the electrician. Hey, leave a 225 outlet there for me in case I need it. That's a good tip for you too. Matte porcelain tile on the floor is okay. I'm in favor of using porcelain material including matte finish on our kitchen floor. I've already received several questions from you asking like, do you recommend using vinyl flooring in my kitchen? Do you recommend polished flooring, porcelain tile, or polished ceramic for our kitchen floor? I don't think so, all right? I wouldn't recommend you use vinyl flooring in the kitchen or polished porcelain tile in your kitchen. I'm one of those people who like to design and always recommend porcelain tile for flooring to the client, okay? Always porcelain tile. And in the kitchen and bathrooms as well, just to add, and also in the laundry room, matte, okay? For you who can't tell the difference between polished and matte, it's simple. Polished is shiny, matte is not, it's flat. What difference does that make in your daily life? It's a matter of safety. Matte gives you a bit more grip so you feel safer walking on it. It won't be as slippery. Polished surfaces get more slippery when wet. which is natural. Let's leave the polished for the wall, porcelain tile on the wall, but on the floor, porcelain tile and even matte. Functional lighting in neutral white. You need to have centralized lighting, a main fixture using neutral white. Do you want to use warm white, the warm white lighting, which is that more yellowish one for your kitchen? There's no problem at all. You can use it. If you like it and want to use it, there's no problem at all. Go ahead and use it. In the current projects I do, I always recommend my clients to use neutral white on the kitchen ceiling. Okay, to make the environment brighter and more pleasant for daily use, and especially in the kitchen, guys. We need to have a main functional lighting, whether it's recessed fixtures, longer ones, or LED strips, but it has to light up. It has to be functional lighting. I walk into my kitchen, press the switch, and it has to be well lit. Your kitchen is a place where you need to pay attention. You'll be cooking food, cutting food, and cleaning all the time. So you need to have functional lighting. And my tip for you is to use neutral white lighting, okay? And a good lamp with good lighting capacity, a big one. Turn it on, that's the one you'll use in your daily life. You can have spotlights in your kitchen, sure. You can have track lighting, sure. You can have some pendant lights above the counter, sure. There's no problem with that. You can have different types of lighting, but the main lighting, that big fixture that's going to light up everything, that one can't be missing. Finally, let's discuss the faucet. I want to talk about two models. I'm in favor of that cleaner faucet, but there are a lot of people who like the gourmet faucet. The LED, that LED strip you can put under the cabinet, I'll leave that too. So the little trash can, for example, whether it's built-in or a floor trash can, I'll leave that for you guys too. And now, the faucet. I want to talk to you about the faucet here. I'm an advocate, and those of you who follow me here know of using a cleaner, sleeker, lighter faucet, and one that even has a filter in it. Obviously, it's a higher value, right? It costs more. Other people have already replied to me here saying they like the gourmet faucet, right? There's no problem with that. In my current project, I would recommend you use the smoother, cleaner, simpler faucet. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to use a gourmet faucet, if you like it, think it's cool, think it's functional, there's no problem at all. But I'm in favor of using a simpler faucet for one reason. Actually, there are several, okay? There are some advantages and disadvantages to the gourmet faucet, okay? Among them, the advantage that I see in the gourmet faucet. It has good reach, a small sprayer, and should work well. Disadvantage, it's very big. Gourmet faucets are usually large and can overshadow your decor. There are materials. If you don't buy a good material, it's going to rust easily, right? It will, because it's a big faucet. If you install the faucet directly on the sink, it will require maintenance sooner, because it moves a lot due to its size. Is that right? So a cleaner, lighter, simpler, and smoother faucet, I think it will work much better compared to a gourmet faucet. If you have one or want to install one, that's fine. All right, here are 15 tips, right? It's not even 10, it's actually 15. That you can have there in your kitchen, functional tips that will make your kitchen work well in your daily routine, for your use there in your kitchen. Some cheap items that you can save money by buying, and some of them here for you to already use during the execution phase of your kitchen. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed and liked these items here. If you enjoyed it, liked it, and still haven't subscribed to our channel, go ahead and subscribe. Alright.